AI isn't coming for your job, it's coming for your wellness. On this episode of The Dean's List, I sit down with Ari Smith. He is an AI entrepreneur and founder of Balance Farms to explore how technology can amplify human experience, not erase it. From personalized wellness to reimagined hospitality, this conversation unlocks what's possible when purpose meets programming. Please hit subscribe and let's explore the future of wellness powered by intuition and innovation. Enjoy. Welcome to The Dean's List, engaging conversations at the intersection of entrepreneurship, artistic expression, and holistic health. Experience wellness in full color, where fashion, beauty, and art blend with body, mind, and soul. Embark on a journey that dresses your aspirations in style, paints your life with beauty, and sculpts your well-being in every dimension. This is The Dean's List, where inspiration is always in session. Welcome to The Dean's List, where tech innovation meets holistic wellness. I'm your host, Alison Dean, and today we're unlocking a conversation that's as much about the future of AI as it is about the future of well-being. Joining me is Ari Smith. He's an entrepreneur, inventor, and AI expert who's redefining how we use technology to enhance human life. From selling his first company straight out of college, well done, to a Microsoft subsidiary, to claiming gold in the Geek Park International AI Challenge, that's a mouthful, Ari has built a career on solving the impossible, leveraging AI to optimize everything from logistics to health. But it's not just about algorithms and patents for Ari. His work explores how cutting-edge tech can amplify human connection, reshape hospitality, and unlock new frontiers in wellness. How does AI go beyond automation to create more personalized human-first experiences? Let's find out. Hi, Ari.
Hey, Alison. Great to be here. It's quite an intro. As you're talking, I realized, boy, I feel so old. I'm just like, wow, all this. Yeah, no, but I'm really, really happy to be here to talk with you.
I'm happy to have you. I think this is going to be I was texting Hillary, your wife, and I was like, this is going to be a juicy one, I think. And she was like, it is. I was like, yeah.
She warns you. She's like, he has no filter and is not fit for human participation.
No, it's great. And you're not old, Ari. It's wisdom now. It's just, you're just like, it's
That's
unlocking new levels of wisdom, right? As we get older. That's all it is.
I am wise as hell. No.
There you go. There you go. Perfect. Okay. So I want to dig in because you went from MIT to pioneering AI and machine learning solutions. Like, I'm curious what the pivotal moment, or was there a pivotal experience that made you realize that AI could revolutionize wellness and hospitality?
I actually think that I basically always knew, I always believed that AI, it was destined to like revolutionize every aspect of life, not just wellness and hospitality. I mean, there was a time when I was like absolutely convinced AI would just touch every single aspect of our existence, like healthcare, education, transportation, personal well-being, and so much more. But I still maintain that belief more so. But the event or the occurrence that sort of transformed how I see things relative to wellness and hospitality, it was something that just personalized. It was just falling in love with Hillary, like my wife. Like she's, I always sound like a fanboy for her, but I am. Like I just think she's incredible. She's like the smartest person I've ever known, but she also is like the most joyful and compassionate, and just has the most beautiful soul. And I kind of watch like how she rolls and how she sort of like swerves through life so effortlessly, and just making all these amazing, extraordinary experiences in the people in her life. And then, so of course I was fascinated about everything about it, like just obsessed. And I kind of wanted to dissect it. I guess this is the mathematician. I just wanted to understand the underlying principles behind which somebody could live like her. Cause I'm like, I want to be like that. Right.
Okay.
And it became really clear that a big part of that was how she expressed herself through her work. And she has these award-winning, like world-class luxury off-grid cabins. And she puts like so much into making sure that those people are happy. And I see she is so gratified when they are like, this was the most amazing wedding we had here in our life, or it was just so beautiful staring up at the stars. And like what you did gave me a life-changing like experience. Like, that was amazing. And it made me realize that beneath my, historically grumpy exterior, I really like to see people happy too. And so it started me like thinking, okay, how can I take my skill set, which is definitely not, as you can tell, not in design, aesthetics, I'm like useless there. But how could I take the skills that I do have and apply it in a way that would like help her with her goal of achieving like next level hospitality with a sort of corollary focus on, mental well-being, spiritual like stability, like just being grounded. And I saw that and I wanted to like bring that in. So that, falling amongst the many other things that Falling in Love did, it triggered that sort of passion in me. And I wanted to live my life with purpose, the way that she has lived her life, just without even knowing that's just who she is. And it kind of led to, so much. I could go on and on, but it led to so many other things, like why we're in Vermont, what we're trying to do here with balance, the idea that we have for like micro communities, and it just kind of like spiraled from there. So
Okay, so Hillary was the impetus for a lot of this stuff. In your journey, though, through the tech universe and all the things that you've done, is there like maybe like an unexpected obstacle that you faced at some point? And did that moment shape how you approach, like how you're thinking about all these cool things you want to do today?
I don't think there was like a technical obstacle. There's technical obstacles. Once you're in this industry long enough, you realize that everything's going to be solved. Like there's just too many people who are working too hard on these problems and have too much to gain. Like even just from a sort of purely draconian or like econometric perspective, problems are going to be solved in the technical space, but there's like crazy cultural resistance, right? And there's like this big gap between, I guess it's a sort of a perception gap between what people are afraid that AI is going to just totally wipe out human connection. And in many ways it has and will increasingly do so. But that is, from my point of view, and this is purely opinion based, I guess everything I'm saying is opinion, but in particular, I want this to be like, I can't scientifically prove this unless I would do some sort of research. But what I can tell you is that experientially, what I've observed is that AI, it erodes human connection when it's controlled by like elite groups and corporations who weaponize it to increase like their control of our lives. But on an individual basis, it can absolutely enhance connectivity. And I've stated on a number of cases, I think that AI, like the true potential for AI, at least in an abstract way, is to unequivocally enhance like human connectivity and to enable us to like unlock new types of intuition and really to provide hyper personalized services to people in a way that is both very harmonious with how humans like to relate and at the same time takes advantage of the incredible like scale of computational power that we have with AI. So an example would be like, if a system were to do a deep dive automatically, if I knew you were going to come stay at our space, I'd say, well, how do we give Alison an incredible experience? I could spend 5 hours going through your social media and online like things that you've done and videos and try to say, okay, this is what I believe this type of person would really appreciate. Or I can have my AI do that for me in 30 seconds. And now I can focus on the execution of those things that will give you a better experience rather than sort of the drudgery of research. So that's one very small way, but the effects are multiple, like they multiply on each other because you can apply that to 1,000 people that might be coming to stay with you, or that you're trying to build something like a hotel might be trying to deploy like a type of service capability that it provides enhanced, guest interactions, and they can provide it at scale. So I think that's one key. And then just sort of like the idea that from the perspective of like that sort of the obstacles is like that AI, like the adoption of AI, I don't really believe it should be measured just by the efficiency gains, but by the ability to create these really rich and like deep and restorative human experiences. And I don't think that there's a cultural sort of acceptance of that yet, because it's been used in so many ways against us. Like we see these big corporations weaponizing it to target us with more ads, and not to make our lives better, but to make them more money at our expenses. So that is what I think is problematic. And I don't think it's problematic from the perspective, like in terms of culture and from the perspective of society. I think it is the corporations that make it hard for society to appreciate the incredible power from a positive perspective that we can unlock.
Given that you've been working with this kind of technology for a long time, but we're only now, I feel like it's now more widespread than ever, right? Just with the ability of anybody can go on ChatGPT or Grok or any of these other things and really interact with AI. Is there any like fun obstacle stories where you're like, had I known now what I knew then, did I say that right? Like this would have been so much better, or like this would have
you can just ask the question directly. How many stupid mistakes did I make that I would undo if I could have gone back in time? And the answer is, I don't have that long to tell you all of them. But I would say that chief amongst the things that I like sort of think, oh wow, if I had known that then, now it, even being in this industry, I'm amazed at how fast it's moving. Like it's just going so quickly, and I don't care about the idea in terms of, oh well, you could have invested in NVIDIA or whatever. Like I know that's not the thrust of your question. It's more like sort of from a human level. I would have loved to understand that the ideas behind attention networks and large language models, these ChatGPT types of systems, were going to be so incredibly powerful. And so able to interact and understand context. If I had understood that, I would have directed a lot more of my efforts towards building out systems that can help people who are suffering from some form of like cognitive decline. As unfortunately my mother is, like, I built a little agent for her that would help her with her dementia and would like remind her of things. But I would have, if I had known that, I could have built a whole like suite of services. And I think I could have developed something more impactful, because I didn't see that it was going to reach this point. It's just something I like think about this number of times. Like if I could have just been a year and a half ahead of this, I think I could have developed something more sophisticated that would have allowed her to have an even better experience. Like right now it does help her. Because if somebody comes in the room, the camera recognizes them and then it'll like whisper in her ear, say, oh, this is this person, you saw them last such and such. And, but there's so much more that I could have done. And I unfortunately, it's another area of like, I think like senior care is an area that's so overlooked. And I think it's probably one of the places that AI can have the biggest impact in terms of how humans can really, really leverage it just to their benefit, not in a way to, automate people out of work, but something that unequivocally will make the lives of people better with like no downside. That is one area that when I have the time, I would love to put a lot of thought and energy engineering into.
I mean, I love everything that you're saying right now, and I agree with you. I feel like that is definitely a space that could really benefit from some more help. Yeah.
It's so antiquated, and they still do the same things that they did 50 years ago. And the people in that industry, typically, like outside of the corporate side, you really have to care to be in that space. And I could just see how I could augment like a home healthcare aid with AI and give them like a superpower and again, in the little way that I've been able to do, it's made a notable difference in the quality of care, reduce the frequency of accidents. I mean, so like physical damage, like it's really incredible. And I'm just scratching the surface. So
I'm sure like many people listening are like, how can I get that from my mom? Like,
like I said, I'll have to find some investor who is not interested in financial returns, but is interested in doing actual good. I've never met such an investor, but if I ever found one, then I would do that. What I expect is that I'm going to just end up self-funding it with my wife, and I'll probably just self-fund and build it, because that typically investors are just like, okay, I invest $1, I get $10 back. And it's like, no, you invest $1, you impact like 1,000 people's lives positively, so.
I mean, I feel like you have to put certain people, to task a bit because there's so many, very high net worth people that are like, I just want to help. It's like, okay, well then those are the people we need to target for something like this because they just want to help. They don't care about the. Okay,
I
let's
mean,
see.
I don't want to
I
seem
know.
too negative or whatever, but I can tell you that those people, they're not the people that want to talk to me because I am like really blunt, and I can say, oh yeah, you could help, and they'll want to go to a black tie event and donate somebody. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. It's like, okay, give me some capital deployed towards engineering. Like, think about wellness. Think about
Yeah.
what that truly means to this class of people.
Yeah.
Give me capital without an expectation of a return, but give me an expectation that you want to see me have a huge impact on people's lives. And that's the kind of person that I can get down with. But like I said, I have yet to meet such an investor.
All right. I'm like going to be interested to stay on this journey with you, Ari. We're going to find this person. It's going to happen.
This mythical, like, good-hearted investor. Yeah. Like, line them up for me. They can come out, stay at our facility. Like, I'll host them for a week and show them how the world can really be. But yeah,
I like this idea too.
Special kind of person.
I like this. Yeah. Okay. So is there a secret, maybe, to designing AI that enhances rather than replaces like the human experience?
I'd like to say that the answer is yes, but I don't really think it is. The reality is that there are simply so many ways in which AI can automate people out of a given category of work or a given industry. And it's sort of like a mythical idea, I believe, that, humans will always be special in this way or that way or whatnot. I think that the only thing that is truly sort of above reproach with respect to humans is our ability to connect with each other. And that's inefficient. But the inefficiency is part of what makes it special. Like, if you came to visit my wife and I here, we'd make a dinner for you. We'd talk slowly. We wouldn't be transmitting binary code. Like, we'd be having a conversation. There's all the subtlety of facial interaction, micro expressions, tonality, inflection. And by the time that dinner's done, we wouldn't know everything there was to know about each other, but we would know each other in a way that was represented the beginning of a friendship. Yeah. And that's what I think is unique to the human experience. And unfortunately, that's not something that is necessarily monetizable in most industries, but it is monetizable in a number of industries. And because of that, because the inefficiency of what I just described, it's a feature and not a bug. In most industries, it's a bug. Like, I want as many engines produced as possible, get the robots in there, wipe out the humans. Like, that is the goal. But when you're talking about hospitality, when you're talking about wellness, you're implicitly discussing, how can I, as one human, relate to all the messiness of other people? The fact that we feel the wind on our face, and sometimes we're not, our stomachs hurt, or we like the feel of grass on our feet. Very hard to quantify. The smell of the air, but this is something that, as one human, I unequivocally want to relate to another human in that way. And we can have shared inefficient experiences that are absolutely, like, they represent what I think living is about. It's knowledge acquisition and whatnot, but beyond the evolutionary aspects, I think that the joy of our existence is in that, like, sort of establishing that connective tissue. So I think that's where, that it's in those industries that are designed to service those aspects of humanity I think those industries are set to explode. That's why I was on another podcast a week or two ago, and it was focused on, like, finance and sports. I was talking to these really nice guys, and one of them was an NFL guy. The other guy was a finance guy. And I was telling him, like, and they, I think, invest in, like, primarily real estate. I was like, yes, sports is great because as humans, we want to project ourselves into, like, oh, these humans doing incredible things. So you don't want to see a robot, like, playing tennis. Just like I don't want a robot to help me or to take me on a walk through, like a hike through the forest. I want a human to take me through and explain to me how it feels to them and things that I might want to observe and dynamically to tell me about stuff. So there's some industries, which is a very small subset of the total industries that are going to benefit greatly from the disruption that AI is occurring, and that where there is a sort of an inherently collaborative pathway between AI and what humans do. Hospitality, wellness, sports. These are places where I think they are such, like, they are great partners. In most spaces, though, I think it's a fairly terminal outlook for individuals working in those spaces, because I can say I could probably more easily automate a doctor than I could a plumber. And that's when you commoditize intelligence, when you kind of sort of democratize cognitive ability by utilizing these AI systems, you're left with those aspects of existence that are sort of like segregate from strict, like knowledge, and much more related to the qualitative aspects of what it means to be a human. And those are very personal to us as a species. Like I said, not necessarily this is the most efficient way to go on this hike. No, or it's not about efficiency, which is what most of what drives the economy is efficiency based.
Right. I think it was interesting that you just brought up like doctors versus plumbers, because when you really think about it, that is an interesting thing, like for us to see into the future of what that's going to look like, right? Like how medicine will be impacted with AI versus your tradesmen. I mean, I know that they're employing some of this in building and construction already,
Certainly.
how they're, right? So that is happening. But specific trades, I think, are really going to not be affected by AI. Like, I feel like you just need the human that knows how to like do the thing, like
at
a plumber.
least for a longer period of time. It's I think everything eventually we will have robots that can do everything. Will we want them to? I don't believe at all that we want them to, but will we be able to? Certainly. It's simply a question of the robotics. So with a doctor, for example, they have to go to school for a very long time because they have to ingest huge amounts of data.
Yeah.
But AI is good at that. A plumber, they're not ingesting so much, like, let's say, data from a book, but they have to go and get experientially. And they will, like, I've seen a plumber, like, they'll have to like touch the glue on the pipes, like, oh no, that glue is it needs to be replaced. They can feel it. There's nothing, if you look at it, you don't know. And because tactile sensation, just like smell and taste, we're way behind the eight ball. Computer vision and like understanding audio, language, like we're crushing it in those spaces. But there's so much more to that field. And of course, there are a lot of this. I don't want to imply that there's not a lot of like tactile relevance to, like maybe a surgeon, they need to feel certain things, but it's just different as I've observed the work of like the construction guys that are working on our property. I think, wow, that would be mind boggling to automate into a robot. Like, we're just now getting to a point where a robot can take groceries out, identify them, and put them into a fridge. And that's an amazing achievement, but it's pretty far away from like, okay, assess this situation and correct things you can't even see because you're reaching behind a wall and you sort of know that that's the thing that you're probably feeling. Or same thing for like an electrician or carpenter. But yeah, even those areas, absolutely, they're going to be fully automatable. It's just going to take more time.
Wow. Okay, I want to dig more into like the intersection of AI and wellness within hospitality. Like, I want to lean more into how you're seeing or what you're expecting perhaps will happen in enhancing like the guest experience, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. So my wife was asking me about this exact issue. I think it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I sort of I remember the summary of the conversation was there was like 3 main areas that I felt would really, would really reflect how we were going to personalize or hyper personalize those guest experiences. And one of them was like sort of like fairly like biometric driven personalization. And this is a part of hyper personalization. I can explain, I'll explain all these in a minute because I guess sounds so complicated or whatever, but that would be one. And then another is like sort of proactive and real-time environmental adaptation. This one is also a really exciting area. And then sort of anticipatory capabilities or services that are anticipatory. You can use inference-based systems and like predictive models to understand what's going to be coming. So I guess briefly. So first I mentioned like the biometric personalization. So you can understand how if we're doing like real time analysis, like physiological data, right? Like I see your heart rate is elevated. You got stress markers or your sleep patterns. I already monitor my sleep patterns with I have a pad underneath my mattress, which it knows when I'm awake and I'm asleep. So I wake up, it can trigger a bunch of things, most of which my wife doesn't want triggered, but like my AI will say, hello, Ari, this is what your schedule looks like for the day. Would you like to do such and such? And she's like, shut that thing up, but it shows that, of course we have a little difference of how much tech should be in the house. But the idea that you're monitoring all this information and that you can use that to really tailor a wellness offering that is like unique and bespoke to that guest. Like you want, right. Alison wants this, Hillary wants that, Ari wants this, and you're doing it at scale just by analyzing our biomarkers. If I wake up and we're supposed to all go on a hike, right? And by the way, I've already booked you on a vacation here. That's set stuff. But imagine we all wake up and you and my wife, your stress markers are low, and we had planned to do a hike the next day. But I wake up and my stress markers are high because maybe I didn't get a good night's rest. The AI should say, hey, Ari, you didn't sleep so well. Alison, Hillary, would you want to maybe delay your hike until, after maybe Ari's had a calming breakfast, maybe some chamomile tea, or would you guys just like to go by yourself and Ari just, go to the steam room and chill out, like calm down. So this is one way that kind of personalization can make just a huge difference. And then you can think about everything from, my wife is doing this out in her property in Joshua Tree, like where you have like personalized treatment options that are all sort of dynamically derived. So recommended spa treatments, cryotherapy, what's that red light thing that, like these kinds of, but based upon that biometric feedback. And then of course, like adaptive programming where there's strategies that the AI derives to help you, relative to like movement, meditation, and like even optimizing the meals that you have relative to that person's specific situation or condition. So that would be one really, really interesting way that I think AI and wellness will converge. And then I also mentioned like the environmental adaptations, just like have the lights go down when, based upon like circadian lighting, strategies, and, optimize the air quality by sensing what particulates are in the air and maybe recommending like hyperoxygenation for people, or, looking at individuals like sort of respiratory patterns and then adapting accordingly. Changing sound, to shift with like different biometric cues, calming sound effects. Like these are all ways of having the environment sort of, twist to your needs versus you adapting to the environment. And I think it's a big deal. And then of course the last one was like sort of anticipating the wellness experiences. So this is more of the kind of maybe brute force stuff, but I think it's still really important. Like automating the creation of your itinerary based upon, we do a deep dive and say, oh, well, Alison likes wakeboarding and that's the thing we offer. So let's potentially recommend that. And, she's a pescatarian. So let's make sure we don't recommend any place or find places that have great seafood, but no, like don't recommend stay, like things like that, or logistical management, helping you with your treatment schedules or coordinating your activities and just to make your life easier. Like this is where like the thing about wellness, and maybe even by the way dynamically plotting out a wellness journey, like a roadmap, and like sort of like acting as like a guide. The areas of wellness that are sort of like orthogonal to wellness is typically the planning of it. Like it's just, oh, what do I have to do, and I have to get to this place on time, and did I schedule this, or I got to call this place. Like that's not a fun experience. It's just the thing you have to do. And then you're like, all right, well, I got that done. And then once you get to the thing, then hopefully it was worth that pain. But why not remove that pain up front by having something that does that work for you?
Amen. Yes. Yeah. I'm like into it. Yeah.
I'm all about like being as lazy as possible with all the grunt work so that I can spend as much time just like appreciating whatever, beautiful nature, the wonderful people that I'm with. Like that's where our time should be spent.
I agree with you. All right. So AI and nature. It's funny because I just did a presentation, and on the front of the PowerPoint was like a forest with birds and then drones. And I was like, ooh, the contrast of like,
utopia, dystopia.
Yeah,
okay, this is great.
So obviously AI, nature, kind of seen as opposites. You've already mentioned, you've got a farm, you're building this 550 acre AI powered micro community in Vermont. So I'm curious, like, what is it about AI and nature? How are they really a perfect match? Back to like what you said, we're not really going to be interested in robot tour guides, I don't think, or like things like that. So like what elements of AI and nature specifically are you excited about?
The idea that AI and nature are sort of opposites, I think that's sort of a false dichotomy. I really do believe that they can work in tandem to really enhance sort of the restorative power of these natural environments, and we're already using that in limited ways, but really cool ways. I can give you a few examples of that. But the first thing I think is to consider is that AI, it really can be sort of like an invisible guide to nature. So think of if you have really seamless integration, which is what we're trying to achieve here. So you have AI as this unseen facilitator that just removes barriers to things like what I was just talking about. It does this grunt work. So now you've got a half hour of your life back that you didn't spend messing around scheduling stuff or figuring out what would work for this, or just like, oh, it found the AI derived a wonderful itinerary for me and booked it all out. So now it removed barriers. I didn't even need to see the AI. I just got my phone, just said, oh, here's your schedule. If you want to make any changes, let us know. Otherwise, we'll, click here to confirm and we'll lock it in. So allowing any individuals to sort of engage with nature without distraction. And we actually did a test of sort of a follow me drone that we connected, that had a little speaker on it, and we connected to an LLM that like an on-site, like a local LLM, like language model that we're running. And we had the drone follow and just like casually comment on what was around. So it was the camera was picking up what was around. It was saying, oh, that's a birch tree. And, this kind of tree can be used to, to harvest maple syrup. And that's the sign of that imprint in the snow is likely a moose. Like little things. And that just tell that, like, that's helping. So it's not like it even has to necessarily be invisible, but it shouldn't be interfering in any way. It should just be enhancing. If I say, you know what, I'm cool now, just silently like follow around. When I wave my hand, you can come down, but go to like 500 feet. So you're out. I don't want to hear you could just do little things like that can make a real big difference. And then when you add in some of the other types of hardware, like to enhance like natural benefits, like where I can have things like, train an AI to understand air ionization or like lighting, like circadian lighting patterns, like I mentioned before, microclimates, etc. So you can have AI amplify the inherent like awesomeness of nature, right? And of course, optimized architectural design. Like I love the stuff that my wife designs because it just flows in nature so seamlessly. And I just think that is a big part in using AI to help with those designs is something she started doing in conjunction with myself and some of our collaborators, like really just sort of accelerating her ability to realize her vision. Like how can we build an optimized like underground hydroponics farm? Like things like that AI really helps with. And then there's just so much more you can envision. We're just starting to scratch the surface in terms of having hyper optimized outdoor experiences where I'm monitoring, like if I see that my heart rate goes up when I see certain types of trees, then I can say, he's really interested in that. Like maybe we should alter his pathway so he sees more, he wants more trees and less like rockiness, whatever it is. These are the kind of things where you can make dynamic adjustments based upon your environment, based upon the physiological data from the user, and just really ultimately like sort of reduce the friction between where the individual is and where they want to be, in particular on that wellness journey. We think of wellness, at least a balance between my wife and I, we think of wellness as just really just being an aspect of how you want to live your best life at any given moment, and having AI help you optimize the way you live your life so that you're at your if you're shooting to have like the calmest experience, or you're really experiencing like great joy, or you're meditating, whatever it is, we want AI to accelerate that rather than to dictate you must feel that this is what your experience is going to be. So this is what you need to feel. So let's drive him towards that in a very deterministic way. We want something that's probabilistic and like sort of non-deterministic. So it's seeing what's happening and then adapting to or conforming to what is going to make me happiest, or accelerate whatever aspect, that positive aspect that I want to accelerate.
Yes. And I wonder about how AI is going to help with some of the more depressing elements of nature, i.e., like saving the Great Barrier Reef and, the Amazon rainforest, and just things where how is the intelligence of AI going to tell us how we can offset the destruction of certain things, or I don't know,
Yeah.
things like that, right? Or just the amount of plastic in the ocean and stuff like that. Just what do we how will AI help us in those dimensions? That's what popped into my brain. I don't You don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to have all the answers.
Well, unfortunately, I kind of wish I didn't know the answer to this one, because it's not a good one. This is not a technological or intellectual problem. Like, you and I could have had this conversation 20 years ago and be like, yo, with microplastics, it's not great, right? Like, we really shouldn't just dump our trash in the ocean. We should try to this is reflective of a human problem. It's a political problem. It's a societal problem. Like, we just don't, we are very comfortable. Look at how we have this massive debt. And this is not unique to the US. Ours is on a huge scale, of course, but we have a huge debt. And we're just kicking the can down the road and saying, you know what? Yeah, we're just going to let our kids deal. Like, I don't want I have a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old. I don't want them having to deal with that problem, but they have to, because, my generation sucks. Like, we just yeah, the kids will deal with it. Like, too bad. And we'll pretend like, oh, it's not a real problem. We'll obfuscate. And I'm saying this is we in general. Of course, there's good people on both sides. There's people who believe one thing, people believe another thing. But what we know without equivocation is that we are not addressing the problem, and we're just ensuring that future generations are going to have they're not going to have to just solve our problem. They're going to solve the problem we have, plus the compounding effects that we're building on it. It was a problem that could have been addressed had we wanted to. Now, that being said, I think AI will unlock new and superior ways to address challenges. I was just talking with one of my engineers this morning, and we were discussing the opportunity to pretend. He was thinking, okay, I think we'll develop nanotech that will eat up the, a lot of the pollution in the ocean, or potentially in our bodies. And I'm like, I expect it to be more of an organic computer, weaponized bacteria with CRISPR, we'll create viruses and bacteria that are able to positively impact, eat up some of the pollute, when there's an oil spill or whatnot. So whichever one of these two, or a completely different approach is derived, I do think AI is going to have a huge impact in that way. And I sort of secretly suspect that most of the people who are controlling the levers of society and whatnot, or are in a position to help or impede the positive climate change activities. I think that a lot of them are probably just saying, if they're not knowledgeable about AI, we'll just solve it. We'll kick that down to a smarter artificial intelligence that'll be able to crack that problem in the future. And as lazy as that is, it's not necessarily a bad idea, because we are truly democratizing intelligence. It's become a commodity with these type of LLMs. So it's quite reasonable to say, let's just wait until we have a solution that's so easy that it doesn't require any pain, because humans don't like pain. We don't want to suffer, even if it's for the next generation. We don't want to give up our Air Jordans or our TVs or whatever. We want to say, hey, listen, let's keep producing, and we can either, pull the wool over our eyes and say, there's no problem. People who think there's a problem, they're communist, or they're aliens, or they're crazy, or they're this. And the people who do say the problem is oh, those people on the other side. Both sides can be right in a sense, and say, even if they don't know why they're right. And the answer could just be, let's let's wait and let AI solve this problem, and we can remove the pain, then the people who are focused on, let's say, building society at any cost, and the people who are focused on, sort of improving the environment, but at the cost of, let's say, our economics or some of the economics that drive society, both sides can be satisfied when you come up with a painless solution that is
It makes sense.
that they say, yeah, fine, deploy that nanotech. It's self-replicating, doesn't hurt us. Yeah, we don't care. We didn't think there was a problem anyway, but thank goodness they solved it. Whatever it is, I think painless solutions are what humans like, because we're very pain adverse.
That's true. You mentioned quite a few as it relates to wellness and hospitality already, but is there maybe one that you think is underused and it would have like a massive effect to the wellness hospitality industry if it was adopted at scale? Like one thing that the whole industry could do that would just be like, boom.
There's no question in my mind about this one. Have you ever heard of cognitive state modeling? Is that...
I've heard of cognitive dissonance.
No, okay, yes, I know. Well, we see it all every day. So if you kind of go beyond traditional health metrics and you sort of integrate data from like a wide array of sources, then you can, to help assess and predict people's mental and emotional and physical states. And you can do this in real time. And so with cognitive state modeling, what you're really trying to do is, like, you're saying, okay, let's take this multimodal data integration. We're thinking we're getting data from wearables and environmental sensors and computer vision systems that could be seeing if my pallor's off, or I'm flushed, or my eyes are a little red. Like, just combine all those physiological metrics, like we were talking about for skin conductors. We didn't talk about that, but we talked about like heart rate, variability, and if you have pupil dilation, EEG signals. Like, take all that data, take behavioral data, like the movement patterns, voice tonality, inflections, different interactions with smart device. Like, people speak differently when their mood is different, and there's different inflections. So combine the environmental context, the light, the temperature, sound, air quality, all that stuff. Like, that type of data integration can really, like with cognitive state modeling, you can really, really hone in on where a person may be mentally and emotionally, and, like I said, physically, and you can then adapt. And of course, the ML, like the machine learning algos for this, they're like high. It uses like this sort of high dimensional data to detect these very subtle indicators of stress, fatigue, cognitive overload, burnout. Like, you want to find the patterns that like really indicate very early signs of this type of burnout that a traditional metric would miss, because then you can take, like what I was saying before, like take proactive action to do something before it gets to a really problematic state. And you want to like look at trends, like where you can sort of forecast shifts in the behavior patterns of people, or their emotional states. And this again allows for this sort of like preemptive, like micro adjustments. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it, but like where you can kind of like, sort of like cut and move how maybe that person's day is going to go, because we can detect, we had this group event plan, but we think they need some alone time because of X, Y, Z. Like, just optimize the hustle in real time to get the outcomes you want, rather than just being fixed on a specific point in space. Like, that's what we have to do because that's already what we planned, and it's too painful to replan. No, it's not, because that's what AI can do, like this. That's where we want to be, like, taking advantage of these kind of capabilities. And so that would be the one answer, which has many parts of it. But yeah, I think cognitive state modeling is going to, there's no question, it is going to absolutely transform like the wellness and hospitality space. Again, there's this tight relation between the two, but no question about it. There's stress, the services that are offered to people, enhancing the integration of the guest with the experiences, and increasing like touch points where needed. I think it's gonna make such a huge positive difference, moving from being like having these sort of reactive interventions in wellness to being like really proactive and anticipatory. Like, that's a very exciting aspect of what I think is to come.
I think about what Uber is doing. When you get into an Uber now and it's asking you, like, do you want it hot or cold in the car? Do you want to talk to the driver or not talk to the driver? So it's like, okay, thank you for asking me these thoughtful questions that I really do appreciate, because like maybe I am not in a mood and I don't really want to talk to anybody. And maybe I'm sweating even though it's, I don't know, 2 degrees outside, and I really want it to be still very cold in the car. Like, I feel like some of these maybe more budget chains could even start incorporating some of these just like pre-arrival little bits of data to ensure people are like having an elevated stay. I just was in New York and I stayed at a decent hotel. It wasn't a 5-star hotel. It was probably like a 3.5-star hotel. And I was shocked, Ari, at the amount of things that were neglected. And I was also shocked at the amount of things where you'd think that in today's day and age, like, because I think there's so many people that want maybe a firmer mattress or a softer mattress or just things like that. And it's not to say that the entire hotel is going to need it at the same time, but you should have like a contingency plan for the moments where you're like, okay, this guest is saying the bed is terrible. Like, how can we fix that? Because the bed is kind of a key component to sleep, right? So I do wonder, though, as it relates to what you just said, how much of what we're talking about can actually be applied like pretty immediately to like any hotel, regardless of if it's like, one of the prestigious ones or something.
This is kind of like the point we were talking about earlier relative to like climate change. It's not a technological problem right now. This is more reflective in, I guess, the business model and the economics that drive them. So we are, when we talk about sort of like, providing cognitive, capabilities at scale with AI, that extends to this area. So right now, as you mentioned, like you go to a 5-star, you're going to get all of that. Yes. But it's a bunch of people doing it, and it's a lot of effort. And there's a reason you pay $3,000 a night is because you got a team of people that are like, oh, like, is his elbow okay? Like they're worried about every single aspect of the operation from the time before you get there until after you leave. And that's not scalable and that's not cost efficient. But with AI, you can provide better insight than that. Again, there's still an important aspect to this that relates to sort of the delivery modality of that service, which I do think needs to have a strong human element. But you can imagine like the budget hotels and whatnot, when it becomes so inexpensive to provide this and it becomes seen as like, oh, well, you have to have water. You have to have like a vending machine with candy for the middle night, like just things that every single budget hotel will have. Maybe they're like their garbage buffet, but something, right? You have to have it because you can't have nothing. Well, I think this will be a capability just like that. And when that occurs, then it'll be part of their business model. And so it'll make economic sense or they will be disadvantaged by not providing that personalized experience. So when I come to the hotel, it's the cheapest hotel in the world right now could easily, determine, okay, well, Ari, you're a vegan, so we're not going to leave like, milk chocolate on your pillowcase. We left a coconut-based, chocolate thing on your, like those little things. Maybe you don't get the chocolate at all, but at least the place knew not to put the milk chocolate on like take that, multiply it by 1,000 different aspects of my stay. And with very little energy and effort, the hotel can start to cater to you, even if it's not a top tier place.
Okay. And then in terms of like profitability, so because you were just talking about obviously some of these really, the expensive hotels where there's whole teams of people and some of that will be, like not necessarily needed. Is that where profitability will increase when, hospitality, I guess, brings AI hardcore into their biz operations? Like, is it the fact that people will go away?
I don't think it's necessarily going to improve the relative profitability of any space relative to other spaces. I think they will all just continuously have to augment themselves, have to up level, just to stay at parity with their neighbors. Now, the other part is, well, okay, are we eliminating lots of jobs at the hotels? Like I don't know. I think the word basic doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore. My kids use it. I think it's like pejorative, but like, it's like a basic or just like a low level or mid level hotel, whatever that means. Their best opportunity is almost unequivocally to reduce workforce, automate, use robotics, reduce workforce. Where I see the value for like the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, or Amangiri or Blackberry is by saying, all right, well, we have that same hyper-personalized information that the Best Western has. Maybe we have some more to it, but once it's that available, and it already is available, but where you could have it so easily subsumed into like your hotel's operational workflow, then you say, well, where's the value? Yeah, they have nicer beds and stuff like that, but why am I going to pay 10 times as much to go to this one space? And it's the experience. And that experience is still going to be driven by humans. So the AI will say, blah, 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 this is what this person should do, or here's the things you need to account for. But the difference between the Best Western and the Four Seasons is that the Best Western will know, and this is a simple example, but the Best Western will know, okay, he's a vegan, don't put the milk chocolate on, right? So I don't get something I don't want. The Four Seasons will have the chef prepare a vegan chocolate cake for me, and that'll be waiting. So it's like, you know what? Now I see why I just spent like money. 10 times as much money, because they went the extra mile. And even when you go further and say, well, okay, maybe there's robots that are making all the food, and you don't even need the chef. Well, I still am going to appreciate, again, the inefficiency, a human coming and presenting it to me saying, okay, like, here's your cake. We made this for you. Here's how we put it together. Yes, a robot could tell me that, but I like the idea that the person is telling me, because it's inefficiently lovely to have somebody like show that you were cared for, that you were thought about, and that you didn't just spend this money for our name. You spent this money because we genuinely intend to embrace you while you are here and treat you in a way that will have you leaving wishing that you were staying longer.
And probably coming back again. No, I'm with you on that front. Do you think, or do you expect that we're going to have AI wellness coaches or health butlers in the future?
100%. I just finished programming one about, 3 weeks ago. And they are remarkable in the same way as I was talking about for like mental wellness, for senior care. It's the same thing. It is, envision a system that doesn't get bored or tired of listening to you tell the same stories or complain about the ex-girlfriend or about like, okay, the dog keeps doing, like, it'll listen to you unendingly and recommend things in a very objective way that are genuinely designed to benefit you and not designed to extract necessarily more money out of you, or just like a system that is just like, okay, my job is to figure out how to make this person happier, healthier, whatnot. So I think that wellness coaches, automated wellness coaches, is going to be a sensational, capability that is going to, I know it's going to come to the wellness industry, en masse. I'm doing it myself just because I don't like to wait for things, but it will be like at scale at some point, in the very near term future. And that leaves the human wellness expert to, again, focus on execution, not research and thought, because you can't be an expert at everything. There's no more you can't really be a polymath, because every field is so wide and so deep. So if you want to focus on wellness, you're probably not going to be an expert in like biochemistry and pharmacology and whatnot, but you sure would like to know if I'm going to, have the guests like try these berries that I just picked, that, okay, it's going to help them because of like the phytonutrients or like the antioxidants. Like, you want the AI figuring out that stuff so that the wellness expert can go on that journey with them and experience the things that the AI won't help you. It's like, oh, you see how this tastes when you like roll it through the bottom of your tongue, and this is the experience you might want to, or that other people have had and that I'm having right now. So it's something to sort of like try to relate to that. That's where the wellness expert goes from being, like I said, taking all the cognitive work and focusing on the emotional and the mental and the spiritual aspects. I think that's where the industry will shift, and I think everybody will be better for it.
Now, what about like the Soho houses of the world and the Equinox gyms? Like, how are those universes of things going to be affected, or how should they be paying attention to AI to, I guess, keep up with all the new things that are, I mean, like, you yourself are going to create this super community. And, that's probably going to become the model for a lot of other things. So I'm curious, like, all these cool spots that exist now, like, how are those going to have to shift?
I think you can tell the success of a business based upon how it treats its AI, how it treats its technology. So a Soho house, or any like say luxury property that wants to, maintain its exclusivity or its cachet or its value prop. Yeah. If they accept disruption as a part of their business model versus something that is like really problematic. Like, and most businesses are structured to think of disruption as a problem, because if businesses are doing well, then they want to just keep things exactly how they are. Every change represents an opportunity to do less well. So that's, and most businesses are maintain that mindset, which is why most businesses that you see today, I don't think they're going to be here, in 5 or 10 years. At least they're not going to have the same position they have unless they realize that AI is not just a tool that's going to make things a little bit better here or there, but it's going to fundamentally transform, and it will continue to transform. Now, what does that mean for this applies to the Soho House, to the bodega down the street. I mean, you name it, right? You either embrace that change and say, okay, I may not know what's coming, but at least I'm going to incorporate that unknown I'm going to get comfortable with not knowing, so that when it happens, like, okay, here's what we got to do to shift, and everybody else has to shift too. And if they don't shift, then I've got a competitive advantage. Even though I went through pain, if I'm going through less pain than my competitors, then I'm actually winning. It's like, am I saving money or making more money? These are sort of the same thing, right? Now, one other thing I would say that to sort of directly address your question is this: if a Soho House or any like luxury place wants to remain viable and competitive, then they probably only need to assume one thing, which is that there will always be some really new cutting edge set of capabilities that are, for whatever reasons, maybe they're economically, logistically, whatever, out of the reach of the masses for some period of time. And during that period of time is when they will have to incorporate and take advantage. Okay, maybe it's going to cost me $200,000 to have a robot butler that can follow you around, like per room, that can follow your guests around whenever needed, to take your luggage with you. Maybe they'll come with you to like your hiking, and they'll have like all your stuff, and they'll prepare your food. That is not something that's going to be accessible to the Best Western, but the Ritz might say, you know what, for anybody staying in our penthouse suite or whatever, however they model, they are going to have this robotic butler, which is a security, transport of things, so on and so forth. That is the kind of thing that will eventually, prices will come down because the means of production will come down because we start producing at scale. And now that'll be something that comes with the Best Western, and all of those same Best Western level hotels will be offering. But now the Ritz has already moved on, and they've got like holographic projected robots that are following around, but they're not like you don't have to have them physically there. And as soon as you need something, a drone will fly down and like move stuff, whatever. I'm probably like the world's worst futurist, because I just think like everything is going to be ruined, and I think everything's also going to be amazing. So I'm like all over the place, but whatever that stuff is, there's always going to be stuff that's out of the reach of everybody. And that elite stuff, which is almost unequivocally going to be in the realm of some type of technology shifts, robotics, AI, or related. That's where unique experiences will be derived for those top level facilities.
It's super interesting. Okay, if there's like an entrepreneur who wants to integrate AI into their business in some capacity, but they are not technical at all, what is the smartest first move that they can make?
Well, they can ignore the technology itself. Like, things change, but they also just sort of stay the same. Like, think about the customer experience and forget the tech, and think about, okay, what are my pain points? Where do customers encounter friction or inefficiency, or where their needs are just not being met? So find those pain points. Back when I worked for Microsoft, we called it the pain chain in sales. Like, find out what's causing your customer like a huge amount of pain, and then capitalize on that. Like, get a pretty Darwinian approach, but it works. Like, you find what's painful for them, and then you just lean into that, and you either say, look, this vendor's not doing that, IBM's not giving that, we'll give you that, or we'll alleviate that pain, or we'll minimize it or whatnot. So find the pain. That's number one. And then map out like the best journey that you can imagine to take. Like, it's okay, if I have a customer experience, pretend the AI doesn't even exist. Just what would that customer experience be? What would parts of that journey would be enhanced with some type of automated thing? Doesn't matter how. Just assume, and this is one of the really cool things, is you can just assume that there is tech to solve the problem. Like, there's some weirdo like me out there who can solve the problem with technology. Don't get bogged down in how, just assume it, and say, you don't even have to assume what the solution is. Just say, here's what would make my customer's journey better if there was something that, if it just did something automatic or some things automatically. Then find experts. And this is the key. You have to find people, who you unequivocally know are comfortable, not just designing and building AI solutions, but explaining those solutions to you so that you understand what you're going to be getting before you get it. Because that you have to kind of combine your domain expertise in whatever area you're focused on with their domain expertise. And if they can't communicate well with you, then you're just going to cross your fingers like, gee, I hope these guys don't like blow up the data center or like cause my customers to hate me. Like, that's not what you're looking for. You want people who hit all those dimensionalities of vendor. Like they know how to communicate with you. They are able to hear what you're saying and appreciate like why your customers are special to you and understand that journey relative to the pain that you've defined, and where they can kind of collaboratively both say, oh, you could do things better here and here and here by doing this and this and this, but at the same time respecting that you know what you're talking about and not just trying to override you, which is a bit, I know this is going to come as a huge shock, but a lot of people in my field, they might be a teensy bit incredibly arrogant. And they'll just say, you don't know what you're doing, AI this, robots this, screw your old strategy. Like, no, there is real value to experiential data, and you want somebody who can appreciate that. And then, of course, the last thing I would say is when you go through this, like you got your pain points down, you got your customer journey, you find your expert, you start putting together your solution, but think about like gradual iterations of your solution set. So start on like very small things that you can understand the impact. Like you say, okay, I not just understand, measure. You want to be able to quantifiably say we went from this CSAT, like customer satisfaction score, to this one. And that was an unequivocal improvement. So now we are getting more comfortable with the benefits of these technologies. Now we'll maybe be a little bit more edgy, or we'll try some more exotic things. But yeah, just iterate. I shouldn't say, I don't want to mean slowly, but like gradually, just build on these things and be a thoughtful strategy around AI and data in general is so essential. And you're going to want, it's not just like quality data being critical to AI, but it's like a quality approach is absolutely vital. And if you do that, you can build a huge, like an incredible business without ever knowing anything about coding or AI. You just have to think, what can I do to make my customer's life better? And how can I find the right person or people to execute my vision?
Yeah, that was very good advice. It almost eliminates my last question. I thought that was so poignant in all ways. We're gonna do a quick fire where you're gonna just say the first thing that comes to mind, and it's just a fun little thing. So here we go. Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee and tea.
Oh, coffee and tea. Favorite color?
Red.
What was the first paying job that you ever had?
I worked in the genomics lab at the University of Washington when I was 14. It was incredible. Best job I've ever had. And it was like, I was just like a kid in a candy store. I didn't fit too well into like normal stuff when I was a kid. So
I feel like what a fitting first paying job for you. Like that,
great.
That was
I
so
thought
perfect.
It was like magic. People get paid to play. I didn't realize that was actually a job, and just doing genetics work. It was fun.
I love it. What is the best AI tool for like just any person that's not necessarily an Ari?
I mean, it would have to be an LLM. It's almost like such a boring answer, but like a ChatGPT, a Gemini, Grok. I mean, as a general sort of universe model, it's so helpful. Especially if you don't know anything, it can help you know how to use it, and then so to be more efficient with it. It's incredible.
What's the best of those, though? Do you think?
Personally, I think it's the uncensored models that a lot of people don't realize this, but you can run your own AI without having to go through ChatGPT or Gemini if you have the right hardware and expertise. So at my house, I run my own private language models that my team and I have like customized and fine-tuned the heck out of. And we've even started training some of our own models so that they can be uncensored and not like subject to like, let's say a lot of interesting models come out of China, but they have bias to them. And a lot of models in the States have bias as well, because there are humans behind these models building them. So an uncensored, unbiased, or at least reasonably unbiased model that you're running personally, so I can trust it with like I said, my medical information. I will give that to my LM and say, hey, my cholesterol is too high. What can I do about that? Stuff I wouldn't. People have to realize every time you use those systems, as incredible as they are, you're essentially just crossing your fingers. I sure hope OpenAI doesn't publish this on the internet. It's just not something I'm comfortable with. And I think that for most people, if they eventually will have their own private AIs running that they can trust implicitly, because it's going to be encrypted and you'll be able to give it all you did. But that is like, so I just love that I can have this intelligence that is I can trust because I control it, and it's not feeding information to any of these corporations.
I need one of those. I need that.
It's coming soon. It's getting easier and easier.
I definitely need that. Okay, what's your favorite band?
Parliament, the Spinners, like old school.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the one phone app that you can't live without?
Signal.
What's the one? Yeah, I like it. What's the one word that you would use to describe your business journey?
Convoluted.
Oh, okay. If you could have any entrepreneur as a mentor for just a day, anyone, who would it be?
I already have her. It's my wife.
Oh, okay. I love that answer. Is there a book that has significantly influenced your mindset?
Flowers for Algernon. It was more relative to like empathy.
Yeah. If you could instantly acquire one new skill, what would it be?
Patience.
Oh, okay. If you could time travel to any period in history, what era would you visit?
I would. This is like the best time in my life. I don't want to go anywhere. Like
I
have my kids, my everything. Every moment of my life is the best time that I've ever had.
It's a great answer. If you weren't doing all the things you're doing today, what else might you be doing?
Oh, farming. Construction also. I love building stuff. I love woodworking, welding. I love like growing like fruits and vegetables. It's just like stuff like that is like a lot of fun to me. I feel like
farming has components of construction though.
Tons.
Too. Because you know what I mean?
You get to play with toys, excavators, skid steers and stuff like that, and grow things. You
mentioned wellness. It's kind of like how you're living your best life, basically. So is that how you would define what wellness means to you?
Absolutely. Optimization of the best outcomes for me and my loved ones.
Are there daily non-negotiables where if you don't do them related to your wellness, the day isn't so fantastic?
Oh, for sure. The first thing I do, like when my wife and I wake up, we instantly ask each other if we had any dreams, because you got to capture that information quick, because we've been focusing on lucid dreaming and like training ourselves to control our dreams. She had a really cool one last night where she was able to control her flight path, and we went on, like she said I was in it, we went on a little journey through through space, which sounded awesome. I would have loved to been in there, but after the dream component or the dream question, we spend like 15 minutes just thinking about what our day is going to consist of. And we had plans, obviously, we have a schedule, we know meetings, stuff like that. But when we wake up, we want to see what's our perspective on how we're going to like approach the day. Do we feel more optimistic, or do we think that, some of the meetings are going to be challenging? So like I want to be like really like, forthright, and I want to make sure I aggressively attack these issues, even though maybe I'm not going to be super enthused about them, because I know once they're done, like we just sort of like plan out how we're going to roll through our day, and then we get after it.
I like it. And then you have your coffee.
Then a coffee or tea, since I still don't know how to make coffee, and I've she refuses to show me how to use the machine. She'll make coffee, and then of course we get our day going, or chamomile tea, which is also nice too. We get our day going, and then there's the second aspect of like sort of our non-negotiable, which is we have to go for a hike. Like we have to get out in nature, breathe air, and that'll usually happen around lunchtime. Sometimes there's some variability with the time, but it has to happen at some point during the day, or like our mood our energy levels is down a little bit.
Okay, I have two more questions. I want you to share a bit about what you're working on right now in Vermont with the huge community stuff that you're creating. Share a bit about what that vision looks like.
Sure. So as I think I mentioned earlier on, I wanted to really try to figure out how to harness my skills to help Hillary build these environments where tech and nature kind of work together, and where you have like great architectural pieces that you could just sort of enjoy. And so this sort of joint vision is what led us to create this idea of balanced farms, which is what we're doing here in Vermont. And as more broadly, and you actually alluded to this, like quite insightful, like we are trying to create a blueprint for what a micro community will look like, because we think that the future is going to be micro communities where you're talking about like maybe 100 to 250 people who are sort of living a certain type of existence. And that could be something like an Amish micro community where they want to really push away from technology. Like they should have all the freedom to do that in a sort of well-established structure. They've already kind of optimized that. They've figured a lot of those things out, but everything from there all the way up to what we're trying to do at Balance and everything in between. At Balance, we're like as high tech as it can be, but still having AI as a tool versus like sort of a governance control system. So we're trying to design this sustainable community that integrates this high tech with like sort of I think the sort of timeless principles of nature and hard work, family and community oriented living. And we want to really, really drive into the idea, at least drive towards the idea that you can embrace life and your environment can help you embrace life versus it sort of dictating. When we lived in like LA or, I was in Miami or New York, I lived for many years in these places. It's like you conform to your environment in every single way. And I hated that. I didn't know that I hated it. I thought, oh, this is really cool. You can order food and it's like there 5 minutes later. We have to cook every meal. We're 2.5 miles from our nearest neighbor and 30 minutes from like the nearest like town of any substance, like where there's like restaurants and grocery stores. And even then it's pretty minimal. So you have to do all that stuff, but that's part of the human experience. And we think that's a key part of what we're trying to do here at Balance. Like we're thinking about every detail, the lighting, the air quality, the wellness itineraries. We want it optimized and just meticulously planned by our automated systems so that the tech gets out of the way and lets you just do what you want to do. Like today, we're taking our engineers, like even though it's getting a little late, we're going to take them on the ATVs. There's no AI involved in that. We just want them to just roll around and just have some fun. And we'll go chop some trees down tomorrow just because it's good exercise and it's fun. And it does have value. We'll take it and we'll burn that in the fireplace later on. So that's what that's what we're really focused on, is building out balance. And as a corollary to that, we're also building a smart property management system, which is why I was saying, our systems will like detect when you're there, unlock the door, turn the lighting to what you want, tell you about what's coming up on your calendar and like what emails you haven't responded to. So like basically building a sort of an AI web of agents around you that is controlled by you, not by the like large corporations. Like it's controlled by you and serves to make your life less friction filled. So we're doing those two things in tandem.
Very excited to see this. Okay. And then I don't know if you've read the book, The Body Electric, or like I was imagining when you were talking about your biometric, like mat that's on your bed, that like I've got a grounding thing on my bed. So like different stuff. And I do wonder like how many rabbit holes you've gone down related to like electricity or some of these things that we're kind of putting on our bodies every day, right? With the smartwatches, with the earbuds, and how all these things, because there's certain people that say none of that's good for you, right? Like the Bluetooth pumping through you all the time, or this pumping through you all the time. It's, we don't even know kind of how bad it is because we're kind of the science experiment ourselves right now.
Yeah.
What do you think about all that? Like, I mean, I stopped wearing my Oura ring when it was like heating on my finger, and I was like, I don't think my Oura ring is supposed to heat my finger up. So I feel like now's the time to put that to sleep.
This is not wellness.
Right.
Increasing the cortisol level. It's the opposite. Yeah, so absolutely there are reasons to be concerned, because again, another conversation I was just having was about like my one of my engineers asked me, well, what do you think about GMOs? And there's a lot of different ways you can look at the same types of problems. Like, okay, we're advancing technology in various different, in the realm of genomics and in the realm of AI and so on and so forth. But pharmacologically, are we developing the types of drugs and food strategies and technology that is actually harmful to us? Well, it's hard to say because we don't really have much of a test period. Like you said, we're the guinea pigs. They should study these things for like decades, but nobody wants to wait and say, well, we came up with this great thing. It'll be nice after I'm dead. The next generation is really going to love it. It's like, no, we want to love it right now. So it's a lot of it's a balancing act. I would say that the things that I'm most concerned about, it's less towards like the unseen, like frequencies that are passing through us, which I do think that it's something that's worth like legitimately thinking about. But I like to look to the science with everything. And there's areas that we know are problematic. That's the reason I became a vegan 10 years ago. It's like, look at all this processed food. I didn't have to guess. I could just, I have enough of a background in genomics to be able to understand this is really deleterious for our health. So I look at the science and say, okay, I know I want to avoid that. I know I want to avoid as many different types of medicine as possible, except when it's absolutely needed, because there's other issues to taking cough syrup. Like things like that, where I have unequivocal data. Yes. Things where I don't, I have to balance that out to like the efficiency of my existence. Like I have to get through a day. I need my phone on me because I need to know if the kids are okay or whatnot. So it's a bit of a balancing act, but I would always encourage people to find your balance. Like, what are you comfortable? What risk are you comfortable accepting relative to the reward you want to get? And that's what we're always just trying to maximize our sort of utility benefit. And so that's my algo for doing that is like, convenience versus like, if I know something's bad, I won't do it. I'm not interested in I don't need any kind of food or benefit enough where if I know it's bad for me, I engage in it. But I don't want to make my life 10 times more efficient because something might have just shaved like 2 months off of my life.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Any final thoughts that you want to share? Or is there anything that we didn't talk about that you were hoping to related to wellness and AI?
I mean, we covered a lot of topics. I would say that people who probably weren't seen as first movers or as like the disruptive innovators from the perspective of the technology landscape, because they like wellness is sort of like outside of that channel for so long. I think that people who are really interested in wellness, I think there's like a sort of a little mini renaissance for these type of folks. I think that these type of folks should be thinking, if something, because now there's no like yes, everything can be built if you can think about it, relatively speaking. So think about what opportunities you would like to attack in the wellness space. And like we were talking about before, find a person who can help get you to that point, because there's absolutely going to be a huge amount of money deployed into that intersection of wellness and AI. And it's more just a question of people people being willing to move outside of their comfort zone and say, okay, I may not know about tech, but I really have this great idea that I think can enhance people's lives. I want to go down. Like, that's more valuable than the technologist. You can find people like me to build the stuff. You have to find the ideas are what are really like sacrosanct. And that's what I think the folks in wellness, if they can just sort of break out of what I believe is sort of a pattern of assuming that AI is just not for them. I think that you could see some wildly successful folks come out of like nowhere, like the hippie weirdo that's like you thought was never going to do anything with their life. I think they could be running an incredible business because in fact they hacked an aspect of life that maybe people pejoratively said, oh, they're a hippie. We're like, no, actually they figured out how to like be centered and grounded. And if they can figure out how to scale that using technology, then they've got a business that they can be proud of, is going to impact people's lives in a very beneficial way. And at the same time, put serious dollars in their pockets and in their employees' pockets. So I think there's like a nice marriage there.
I feel like I have so many questions, Ari, that I could keep asking you about so many different kinds of tech.
I love tech.
Where can people find balance? I mean, like, how should they be following you and everything that you're working on?
Every time I do an interview or a podcast, I always realize like I've got to get it together and get like social media. We have a Balance Farms is on Instagram. And I don't even know I don't even log into it, but my wife does that. And you can go to our website, and you can go to my company's website, which is fatrat.ai, if you want to just see about the kind of stuff that we do. And, there's some case studies that talk about some of the more interesting things that we've done, like agriculture and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Well, I feel like I'll make sure Hillary gets me the links and I'll tag things appropriately so that people can find balance. Ari, it was so lovely to see you and to chat with you. And I'm very excited for all the stuff that you have going on. Count me in. I am ready to visit and see all the cool things and lean into the AI universe.
Wonderful. Yeah, it was great talk with you. Really enjoyed it.
And thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Dean's List. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to stay updated and follow us on Instagram at official_Dean's List and YouTube at It's Official Dean's List. I'm your host, Alison Dean. Until next time.